Welcome to Yeshiva Daf, share sponsor, Learn Nishmas, Armi Shalom, and Lab Basitzchok. We're holding in Sanhedrin Daf Ches, is the daf that was given on Shabbos. We're starting the second parak of Masechet Sanhedrin. Zok the Mishnah. Kohen Gadol, Dan V'doni Moisei. Kohen Gadol can judge, and he can judge him. We'll see in the Gemara. What's the Chiddush? Meid Umeid Moisei. He can testify, and he can testify on his behalf. Choylitz V'chotzim Nishtoi, Umiyab B'misishtoi. They do chalitza for he can do chalitza for his wife. He does yibum. They do yibum for his wife. He can't do yibum. Cannot marry almana. So we're starting here at the rules of Kohen Gadol. This means, by the way, just to mention what Tosis mentions over here in the bottom of the Amud. Why is this parak mentioned over here? Because the previous parak we spoke about Kohen Gadol, we spoke about a king. So we're going out to the details that have to do with them. Mace to mace, the Kohen Gadol has a mace. It doesn't go after the bed because the chashash is maybe will get tameh by touching the mace and he can't become tameh. So the way Rashi explains it is they go from block to block, and every block that they are covered from the block, I mean they leave the block, he goes into that block. And then when they go to another place, so he's not in that place. In other words, they're always in different blocks. Here he goes till the entrance of the city. The Rameh doesn't leave the entrance of the city. He doesn't leave Beis Hamikdash. Doesn't leave Beis Hamikdash. Rameh also doesn't leave the city. Why doesn't he leave the city? So Rashi learns, and he doesn't leave the city because out of the city you don't have blocks to hide in. It's open field, so he's going to get Thomas. So we don't let him to go out for the Levi. That's the only issue. But the way the Rambam, the way the Chodim learn the Rambam, according to Rameh, means doesn't leave Yerushalayim. He's not allowed to leave Yerushalayim. It's kosher. It's a din d'oraisa, din d'rabbanan. But you have a din not to leave Yerushalayim. The Chazchiduk brings a reason why can he leave Yerushalayim. Maybe not because of Mikdash Lo Yetze, but because there's a din lino. Every time a person brings a korban, then that night he needs to stay in Yerushalayim. The Kohen Gadol brings a korban every day, so he has to stay in Yerushalayim every single night. That's what he brings. One of the interesting, fascinating questions brought down in my great-grandfather's Sefer, the Oil Moshe, Shaz Chuvas Oil Moshe. The Kshaila is, the Mishnah Pirkah in Ovos Davnos, the Bryce in Ovos Davnos says that a mamzer is not allowed to go into Yerushalayim. Now, there is a Gemara that brings, if you have a mamzer Talmid Chacham and a Kohen Gadol Amoritz sitting in the same seudo, so the mamzer Talmid Chacham gets first before the Talmid Chacham Amoritz, meaning you give him the zimun. So the shaila is, how can it be that a mamzer Talmid Chacham and a Kohen Gadol Amoritz will be together? Kohen Gadol is not allowed to leave Yerushalayim, according to the Rambam, and the mamzer can't go into Yerushalayim. So how can they be in the same meal? That's an interesting Lomdish shaila that's brought down, and he discusses over there. So says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, Kishu Menachem, when he's comforting of Achirim, everybody's going to go one by one. The Emunah, his secondary, his Zgan, is on his side. So he's in the middle between the people going on his left, the Emunah on his right, he's in the middle. So he's Memutza being in the middle gives him Chashivas. Because when he gets the chol from others, he gets the chol from others people, everybody says, where are your kapara? For him left is Boch Yerushalayim. You get a Boch Yerushalayim. Because when they do give him Suda Savro, they give to Havel. They all sit on the floor. So different than the regular Havel, which is the opposite, that the Havel sits on the floor and everybody else sits on the table, on the chairs. So it's Chashivas to give the Kohen Gadol. Now the Mishnah goes to the king. He can't judge, he can't be judged. He doesn't testify, don't testify for him. No chalitza at all. No yibum. If he wants to, he can do it. We don't. Now he doesn't. No one can marry the widow of the king. A king can marry the widow of the king. David Melech married the wife of Shaul, the widow of Shaul. So we find this thing. So the Kohen Gadol Dan can judge Pshito. What's the Chiddush? The Chiddush is that he can be judged. Hanayim Pshito. If he can't be judged, so he can't judge. First take care of yourself before you take care of others. So what does it speak about a king who can do neither? Tana Nami Kohen Gadol. So we say Kohen Gadol to do both. If I say Kohen Gadol Shahor is a nefesh b'mezid, what's the chiddush? The chiddush is the following: the Kohen Gadol that killed b'mezid neherok, he's going to be killed. B'shoigig goes to Golus. V'oiver al esav alois. So we'll see in the Gemara in the morning. What does it mean? They transgress the esav alois esav. V'arei kiyad d'chodor. He's considered to be like a regular guy. So when b'mezid neherok b'shito, what's the chiddush that he's killed b'mezid? B'shoigig goyle. The chiddush is b'shoigig. Hanayim b'shito. It's itzach. The Yeshiva Daf Kohen Gadol. It says the Kohen Gadol needs to stay in the Yer Miklat until the Kohen Gadol dies. Only someone who has this solution. If Kohen Gadol dies, he leaves. Legally, he goes to Golus. If someone does not have to come to Golus, maybe he should not go to Golus. Then down it says in the Mishnah, the Gemara quotes 7 Yuchas on the base. However, Kohen Gadol Shahorag as a nefesh ein yoytze misham lo'ilo. Right? Someone who kills Kohen Gadol kills, then doesn't leave the Miklat. So why not? So because we'll see the point is that the Kohen Gadol doesn't have that solution. What's the reason for it? Rashi says he can't do it because there's no Kohen Gadol. So Tozer speaks about that there's no Kohen Gadol until it so happens to be that loy minu Kohen Gadol ad shenigmar dinoi. Because if there was a Kohen Gadol, shenigmar dinoi is enough. That's a discussion that we showed you. At what stage there was no Kohen Gadol? At the time of the killing, the time of the Gemar Din, according to the Taisus, as long as you have a Kohen Gadol, one of them, it's good enough. So because there's no Kohen Gadol there, there's no Kohen Gadol to release him. So that's why he won't go to Golus. Kamash Malan, he does go to Golus. Maybe he should not go to Golus because he can't go out of Golus. Every Ritzeach has to run to Miklat. I feel Kohen Gadol b'mashma. So Kohen Gadol is included. So what does it mean? He has to transgress esav loisase. In Omar al esav loisase, meaning the Beis Din will punish him like any other hedrit. The din will be shloisha. Pshito. We learn in the previous parak that to judge the shevet, the city, or the Navi Sheker, sorry, Kohen Gadol, you have to have basis 71. How do you know Kohen Gadol needs to be judged by the basis? Because it's considered to be Dvar Shel Gadol, the Dvar of the important person. It has to be in front of the Sanhedrin, in front of Moshe Rabbeinu. Maybe anything that he deals with should be judged in a basis 71, not a basis of 3. Kamashwa, that's a chiddush. Maybe he needs to do the whole thing. Michtiv divrei gadol. Hadover gadol tiv dover gadol mamash. Only din in the fash you do it 71. But a regular thing you do for a 3. And that's what it means. The loisas that we've done in a basis of 3. The first we discuss. Okay, so that's loisas. What about essay? We said it. Tell me what? He's being judged by 3. Esther, there's no 3. So some say, it's Agaburcha. We mentioned like this, I said essay as well. Others say, we know that mitzvah's essay, you force a person that doesn't do a mitzvah's essay. You force him. So, which basic you force? Basic of 3. There is some that are bring the Shita of Rashi that says that when the Eidim were master on an essay and said, if you transgress the essay, you get Malchus, you don't get Malchus. Why? Because there's a possibility sigrum. You can now allow to this take away from the Torah. So there's a loisas in every essay. There's a potential loisas. So they want to say that's what it means over here, based on 3. Says the more maybe so you can testify. We know regarding Ashos Avedo that you say that not everybody is doing Ashos Avedo. Sometimes a person can ignore the Avedo. Sometimes you don't ignore. So what will be the cases that a person could ignore an Avedo? Kohen bu basic parts, according to basic parts. Zoker be'eno fich voido, Zoker is not and is covered. He's making more money than his friend. So in other words, the Torah says you don't have to do it if it's not lefi kloitcha. So if so, why does that kohen have to testify? Torah says for Yisurim, and by Yisurim we know ein chacham ve'ein eitzah keneged Hashem. It says the mashmos of the Mishnah is talking about even things that are momentous. He's going to testify for the king. We said by the king there's no testimony. He testifies for the son of the king, the prince. Ben Melech had you too. For Dini Bezin, he's considered to be a regular guy. The king is going to be present. He's coming for him to testify on his son. You say a king should not be in Sanhedrin. Because of the cover of the Kohen Gadol, they want to testify. Also, he comes, sit down. So they accept his edus. Kaihu gets up, goes, and he leaves. When we look at the din, he doesn't sit in Sanhedrin. So the king comes specially for the Kohen Gadol to testify for his son. Sanhedrin is not included what we said before, that he doesn't done because it could be maybe part of the Sanhedrin he does do. So the man Kohen Gadol be Yibushan. You don't put him in Yibushan. That was Sanhedrin dichtiv lo yisaneh al riv, lo yisaneh al rav. You can't have someone so great that nobody wants to argue with. Why do you put him in Yibushan? It's a more fascinating thing because they have negias. They have reasons why they want or don't want to do Yibushan. Melech b'shum afsanya. Because of Afsanya. What's Afsanya? So you have a machlikas who's showing exact two opposites. Rashi learns he wants to do Ibur. Why? His obligation, the king accepts on himself to support his soldiers, his servants, with an annual stipend. So if the year becomes longer, he's going to have more income. He has to pay the same thing. So he wants to have Yibur. Other Rishonim know the exact opposite. So the king has a stipend per month. It's like a koil, you pay per month. So if it's Yibur Shabbat, there's an extra month to pay. So he does want to have Yibur Shabbat. The Rambam brings both, and there's a king in the Rambam say why the Rambam says that a king wants to have Yibur Shabbat. Well, what does not want to have Yibur Shabbat? It's because we know that people Shana Rishonah cannot go to war. People just got married and don't go to war. So the king wants to make the year as short as possible, so you will have more young people to go to war. Kohen Gadol Mishitzina. Kohen Gadol because of tzina, because of cold. What's the so cold? Rashi learns that he was going to go into the mikvah in a time of Yom Kippur, and if you postpone, if you have a Yibur Shana, if you add a month, it's going to get colder. It's going to be colder for him to go into the mikvah. Tosfos disagrees because he says the Gemara in Yuma says he used to heat the mikvahs. So he says just the floor was cold. So the Chachamim answer in Rashi, they used to heat only the mikvahs inside the Mikdash, not the ones which are outside the Hazara. So therefore it will be cold. But Papa Shmami knows. So, what do you see from here? Shabto batayorcha ozim. The year goes based on the month. What does it mean? Shabto batayorcha ozim. Says Rashi, Chayu rochim urim lehem. Lo nis'al b'oil l'chkori b'chor shoshano. V'tzir Hashem cheshvan hamitishu kashu saberis. So says Rashi like this. Let's say the winter is supposed to be in Cheshvan. If you make a Yibur Shana and you postpone the year by a month, it's going to be colder in Tishrei. Now in Cheshvan. Seems to be obvious, right? Says the boy, no. That's not true. Was 3 shepherds, meaning low-level people. Rabbanan heard they're saying the following things. He came to say there's a few wanting to know if we're already ready to have the month of Adar, or we need to add another month because we're not ready yet. So the first simon the one said is in bochir v'lokish kechadi yametz, meaning if things will grow from the early harvest and from the later harvest, from the early planting and the later planting. Chodesh Adar, you have the growth from the early planting and from the later planting. So they both grow dinu, that's Adar. Timlav leistin Adar, if only the earlier plant is growing, it means it's still in the middle of the winter. Chadamar in tor, an axe, betzofar in the morning, betolag yomus, he's going to freeze from cold, freeze from snow, meaning in the morning it'll be very cold. Over tiara in the afternoon, betul de'eli in work, if they go under the shade of the tree, of the fig tree, yishlach mishlit, remove his skin because it will be so hot. In other words, the morning will be very cold. And the afternoon will be very hot, dinu odor, that's odor. If it's still cold in the afternoon, leis dinu odor, it's not odor. If there'll be a very strong wind from the east and west, wind, Then you blow back to it, and it's not going to be so strong. In other words, you're able to take away the wind, and the wind is not so strong towards you. Dino other. That means it's other because it's not so strong the wind. If you love lace, dino other. That's not other. So 3 simanim. Mashal says 3 simanim and 3 different types of creatures. The first one is semeach. Tell me the things grow. The early and later harvest grow in the same month. Second one is the animal. The animal is cold in the morning and hot in the afternoon. And the third one is a human being that he does air. The Ibur Rabbanan Shot Rabbanan made a Ibur for that year. So what do you see? You see that the Royim are saying, well, if it's too cold, it's not other. That means when you do Ibur Shana, it changes the cold and heat. I mean, once you add the month, the cold will come in an earlier month. So if one of the Rabbanan relied on the shepherds, and the Rabbanan relied on their own cheshbon. The Rebbe this time Messiah coming out to be that they were Messiah, they had a siyata that what they said was correct. Now, what is the question over here? Look at Lashon Rashi. Rabbanan asu kishvat shekavu other hashen achor al mashatu ba'ibur hazil v'lenaga choyim dinisan be'adai leminag other ba'adai sheni. In other words, they heat their cold depending on the Ibur Shana. That's what Rashi explains. That's the discussion. So Taisa says that why are we doing Ibur Shana? Because we want to have the sun connect to the solar calendar to connect to the lunar calendar, and that's where the seasons will connect. That's what we want to do. So what is the discussion over here? Of course, what is Gemara saying? You see, with Kohen Gadol, he wants to change. He doesn't want to do Ibur Shana because it's going to be too cold. Or said, you see from here that the cold will change. So it says, no, the cold won't change because that's the whole point. I'm adding a month in order to connect to the sun. It says there's other reasons why we're doing Ibur Shana. Some of them have to do with the cold. So because of the Aviv, so Perseilon. So it could be that it will be colder in the Tishri. That's a discussion of the Gemara. Now this whole thing is hard to understand. We know, in our experience, when sometimes Sukkot falls in October, sometimes in November. It depends on the Ibur. Yes, so when you shift it, that's what happens. So what's the discussion of the Gemara? You're shifting it to a event like Tosis asked, basically. What happens is, if you're not going to shift, so yeah, it's true. The coldness, the cold season is going to be coming earlier and earlier, right? So if I don't shift it, because meaning the cold season will come later and later. So I have to shift it in order for the cold season to come a little bit earlier. Sometimes when you shift it, it comes in a little differently. So what is it we're asking? So someone has said, Tzavas Pareach says, you're right. The question is, what do we do? Do we wait for it to be, how does Ibur Shana work? Does Ibur Shana work that first we wait for an actual month to be accumulated? In other words, the sun, the solar seasons, are delayed by a month. Once we're delayed a full month, then we add Ibur Shana to go back to the regular cycle. Or we do it before we're delayed. That's the discussion of the Gemara. When do we add the month? As a preparation for the next 3 years? Or as after 3 years that we're being delayed? Every year every year there's 11 days that the sun is more than the moon. So the moon is coming 11 days backwards. After 3 years, we add a month. Or before the 3 years add a month. That's the discussion of the Gemara. So do we say it will be cold? It will never be cold. Because we're never going to let it be cold. Because every time it's going to come a little earlier and earlier. And once it's in the earliest, you push a month, it'll never be cold at Tishrei. That's what Tzavas Pareach explains. That's the simple understanding to explain the whole discussion over here. There's a beautiful pshat that the Chassidus brings and others bring. The pshat is like this. The Yerushalmi says that Ibur Shana changes the nature of the world. Lekeil Goy Meralai. The Yerushalmi brings an example that a girl, that her birthday is doing Adar. And Nisan, it's called. Their birthday is Nisan. Meaning, she will turn 3 doing Nisan. If there's a Be'ilah and she's 3 years old, the Besuli, the virginity, doesn't come back. But if they add a month, Beis adds a month, so she will now become 3 for another whole month. That will change her nature. Her blood will come back, will return. Meaning, nature changes based on Beis. The more understands that without going to do Ibur Shana, it's going to change the nature. So if it changes the nature, so the seasons will depend on the Ibur Shana. So the word doesn't work that way. Not for the seasons. The Torah tells you that you have to change the months based on the seasons of the summer. But that was the discussion of the Gemara. Maybe it will change based on that or not. That's what the discussion of the Gemara over here. There's another pshat, beautiful pshat of the Chasam Sofer. We'll stop over here. We'll continue for the year from the two dots to the bottom in tomorrow's daf.